Welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo, and tonight we'll be having a special guest on. It's a good friend of mine, a good brother of mine. It's a father, he's a husband, and we'll be talking about how did I get here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo. Tonight we'll be talking about how did I get here. We're going to have a couple of series on talking to fathers and husbands on how they feel about the marriages that they have and how do they feel about how they got to where they are tonight. So I'm having a brother come on today. B King, come on for us.
How's it going, brother?
We're doing great, man. It's been a long time.
I know, man. I know. Too long.
I think the last time I had you on, you hadn't yet had your second child, right?
Yep.
So congratulations to that. Just tell me how it is to be a father for the second time.
Man, it's good, man. I got a little girl now. She is 6 months, so I'm a girl dad officially. I would describe the last two kids now.
Okay.
Kind of like a NASCAR race. Like it's always something. It's always something going on. You got somebody resting while the other one is still moving. So, but I love it though. It's been good. It's been good.
Awesome, man. So, and I also know you're opening up a business and you're ahead of that. And we're going to talk a little bit of that towards the end of our conversation. But thanks for agreeing to come on to talk about these subjects of men of color. And so how did I get here? You know, we played off a little bit about how did I get married or whatever the case with that, but it's really how we got here and how to get past this culture of hookup culture and talk about relationships, right? And so we do that a lot because we want to make sure that our other men like ourselves are healed. They know who they are. They know where they want to go. And it's kind of dangling in the air right now because we don't know with this hookup culture, like how men are even getting out there to find someone of quality. And we know your story, but can you tell us a little bit about your story? Because the last time we had a topic, it was about arranged marriages, and you came to find out that you actually were a part of arranged marriage. You didn't know it, but talk a little bit about how you met your wife and how you met your wife. And then like your age and stuff too. Like, I know that's very intricate to this conversation because, with that situation is very unique. So
definitely. So right now I'm 37 going on 38. Coming up, so cancer season is approaching. So right now, so we met, we're going on 10 years being married. So we met back in 2008. Met 2008. We met through family, ironically. I just moved to Atlanta. She had been here for several years because she attended Spelman. And when my family met her family, they told me that I should call her. I almost didn't call her because I was young. I felt like I didn't need to be hooked up by my family, so I almost didn't call her. But my told me to call her because she had seen the picture and figured it'd be somebody I might like. So I ended up calling her. We ended up going out. And I guess to fast forward a little bit, the rest was history. We dated for 3 years, got engaged in year 3. We were engaged for a year before we got married in 2012. And been married and growing ever since. So we're going on 10 years, October 5th this fall. So it's been good. It's been good. I always say marriage ain't for the faint of heart. And if you're not willing to work, you should probably go ahead and just stay single. But it's been a good journey.
Why do you feel like it's so important for just people in general? What's the benefits that you found for just being married? As a single man, and I know again you started when you're in your 20s, but why get married? Why do you feel like it's so important that you got married, and what do you see the benefits are of getting married?
Definitely. So I was 28 when I got married. The biggest benefit for me is having a partner, not a dependent, not somebody who, and no shade to anybody who stays on, because things stay-at-home parents, male or female, those are partners right there. Because the thing is, holding down a house is a full-time job.
Right.
But having a true partner instead of somebody who is just a bystander. Whereas if I have financial questions, we can talk about finances. If we want to talk about business, we can talk about business. As I'm building my business, she has a skill set that I need, that I don't have I don't have yet. And
right.
I can go to her when I have questions.
Right.
But also just somebody who can grow alongside of you. And as I say, just having true partnership. I think that when you truly get to know somebody in the early stages of your marriage, it's hard. Of course, you got landmines as you get married, and folks grow apart. But for us, biggest thing was partnership and being able to have somebody to grow with.
Right. I've even heard it's a business. I think the love and the relationships are great, but as you get older, you look at it, like you were saying with your business, your business is her business.
Right.
It's you all's business. You grows together, right? And so, can you talk a little bit about like how that's helped you with your business now and understanding that you have a partner as opposed to doing it alone? Definitely. Like if you were a single man trying to do what you're doing right now, it would come with its challenges. But what do you feel like you've gained outside of the respect of business that you can see that you wouldn't be able to have this if she wasn't around?
So there's the tangibles and the intangibles. So I guess for the tangible, like for me, I'm starting a charter school here in Metro Atlanta. Slated to open fall 2023. And so with that, I'm an educator by trade, but in venturing over to this space, I'm now an entrepreneur, which I didn't look at myself in that aspect. And I get involved in politics, community relations, marketing, all the different aspects of it, commercial real estate.
Right.
I feel like I know a little bit about a lot right now, but I'm relying upon experts in many different avenues, where my wife is, her field of expertise is in marketing. So, which is something that I need. And that's kind of like my lifeblood to make sure that I have the families and the students that I need. So for me, if there's an ad that's coming out, I can ask her, how would this ad be received?
Right.
Or how would you word this? If there's a press release I need to put out, like I have her put eyes on it first before I give it to the professionals that I'm hiring to do those things. Because I still have folks that are hired and paid to do those things, but at the same time, having somebody in-house to help fine-tune that before I give it to them, because she's going to look at it with my best interest at heart versus somebody else who gets it from the outside and looks at it from, is it grammatically correct, or does this put me in my organization that they represent, is this going to put us in a financial bind? Instead of looking at it from their perspective, she looks at it solely from, how's it going to impact me? Because if it impacts me positively, it's going to impact her positively. If it impacts me negatively, it's going to impact her negatively. So she's I definitely would say she's definitely a value add. I hope she can say the same thing about me, but she's definitely a value add in regards to that. But, definitely from the business side, definitely for sure.
Fantastic. So let's get into, so what are some things, just talking about marriages in general, what are some things that you've heard from like your single friends who are dating for marriage that have been issues?
So now it's funny because, and I know you can probably attest to this, a lot of my friends and friends that are in our age group, some are back dating after being married, and others are still moving into the marriage realm. So for some of them, but dealing with from the men perspective going on to women, I can't speak to how women are perceiving it. Maybe a little bit higher, but women moving too fast. I think as we get older, I think sometimes men, we still have our pace in which we want to move to get to know you, go through the process, and whereas women kind of have intuition possibly as to what they want a bit quicker than what we do. So I guess getting to a point faster than the male counterpart, I think that's something that I've heard has been a turn off for some of the fellas I know. Outside of that, I think that at this point right now, some people have kids. So
are you saying they're on two different like they're not aligned? So if the guy is at one place and the woman is at a different place, so they're not aligning with what they want at the same time? Correct. Like they want the same thing, but the time frame is different.
Correct. Like they're both working towards marriage, right, but she might know at 6 months.
Right.
He knows at 9, 10 months to a year. And right, so those conversations, of course, you have to have those conversations within a relationship, because the thing is, you don't want to spin your wheels. You need to know where you're going.
Right.
But I think sometimes instead of instead of picking up man to man at half court, you're picking up full court press in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And so, which can turn some folks off. But I think that everybody has the same goal. I think that also with people having kids now, I think when you get into your you get into your 30s, your 40s, you have kids. And the thing is, if you have kids and you're back on the dating market, having people that are not ready to date you and your children or your child, like they're ready to date you, but once it's time to and being transparent up front about the fact I have one kid, I have 2 children, this relationship with the mother, a lot of women may not want to take that on. And some that say they do want to take it on, they may underestimate what it means to take that on. And of course, you don't get into it. So I think that's been a challenge for folks, for some of the fellas I know. What else is there?
Because I would, to piggyback on that, just being in the dating world, like, it is a lot, and it can be a lot. And I think, if you've worked with kids before, or been around kids, you can always give them back to their parents, but to have it like full-fledged in your face, I think people underestimate. And I look at relationships, and I'm not sure if you look at it like this, you could tell us. I look at relationships, solid relationships, healthy relationships, as responsibilities. You don't, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You can the love is there, but because it's your responsibility and duty to be there for your kids, it's your responsibility and duty to be there for your wife. Sometimes she may get on your nerves, and sometimes you may get on her nerves, but it's because of the responsibility that you have to do it, where feelings sometimes don't even matter. It's more so about, this is my responsibility as a man to do this for my wife, but for you to do this for your children. Because we've all done things to our parents in the past, and we had to continue to work through it. They had to continue to work through it. They loved us unconditionally. But what about your wife, who you see your children differently because they're innocent, but your wife or your spouse or the person that you're with, you have to love them in the same manner. And I think that's hard. And I think people these days speak solely on their heart, as opposed to kind of mending those two things together.
No, right. You definitely have obligations. You definitely have obligations in a relationship, because the thing is, I know for me, a conversation I have with my wife sometimes is that I don't have to like everything, but I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a thing that I have to do. And maybe I could be more pleasant in how I go about doing them sometimes.
Right.
I don't have to, but these are the things that I feel like I have to do. And I'm not gonna have a smile on my face when I do it. But
she wants you to smile at it.
Oh yeah,
she wants you to smile while you're doing it. Like,
oh man, look, you should want to do this. I don't have to want to do it.
Exactly. This is what you're supposed to do as a.
I'd rather watch this movie right now. I don't want to be out. but it's a lot of for kids, spouse. Like, you do have the obligations when you sign up for marriage, when you sign up to be in a serious relationship, when you sign up for kids. Like, that's sacrifice right there. You have to sacrifice your time to do certain things. Like, and the thing is, in a real relationship, like, this, like, when you're in a real relationship, you're not sacrificing just for going on dates. You're sacrificing to now assist. You need to drive to the airport. You need assistance with something at the house. You need did somebody just pass away, and you need me to be present there for you. Like, what do those things look like outside of just things?
Stop right there, because I have this conversation all the time. Sacrifice. I hear nowadays that people think you can have it all. So if you can have it all, sacrifice may not even be in that equation. What do you mean by, why do you feel like sacrifice in relationships is so important?
Because I think that
Well, in a marriage, you've been married,
sacrifices.
you could talk towards it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, for example, when you got two people, everybody has the one thing that they want to do, and like
Right.
something that rarely do is everything intertwined with each other. But like, if
Right.
there's something that is really just somebody's dead set on, they want to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
As the partner, like, it's that sacrifices. All right, my spouse, like, when I was moving to DC,
Right.
when I moving to DC, like, my wife had a very good career here,
Right.
and she was ready to uproot and move to DC to follow me for my goal that I had,
Right.
and that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. And for me, I'm willing to do the same thing for her.
Mhm.
Most of her positions, a lot of her positions are out of state. If she needs to
Right.
move, even with me doing my school down here, I'm not opposed to making it work. Where if she has to relocate, then we relocate, and I have a place down here, and I make it work with how I manage my school or hire a principal and how that works. I make it work how I need to make it work. Or even the small things. I like to watch my football games on Saturdays. Like, for me, the sacrifices that from 12 to 8 when I was single, but now, like, I gotta sacrifice that. She wants to do certain things, I go do it. My son has baseball, I go to the baseball games. But for me,
even though you love that football, you love them Lions.
Oh yeah, I gotta go out. Look, and this is, and I shouldn't spend any time watching the Lions.
Right.
But, like, that's the time that I want to watch. That's the time that's dedicated to that. So my non-negotiables are like, I want to watch the Lions on Sunday. I need to watch Michigan on Saturday. And outside of that, you let me know what you need. Right. But you make sacrifices that's small and large, whether it's relocating and doing something small. Like, those are the things you do because you gotta pick your battles.
Now, you talk about sacrifices. Have you heard any of your other friends who may have gotten divorced or relationships aren't as healthy as yours not making their sacrifices and is causing issues? Do you feel like that's a problem in the relationship?
Like, I think so, because I think in a relationship you got to be willing to. Two people got to give the same effort. Like, if you got to give full effort, you can't give partial. Like, if somebody's giving full, you got to give full. Like, if somebody give partial and you're not giving full, you figure out why it is you're not giving all of it. And, like, if you're not willing to try to work on a relationship, like, it's not gonna work. I don't care if you just started dating, or because even when you start dating, you got to make the time to go see the person.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, like, or a marriage, you have to. Those are the things you have to do. And, like, in this, so sacrifice is definitely, even from big or small, sacrifice is definitely something that I've heard is an issue in relationships, because it comes across as selfish. Whether it's going to counseling, if one person wants to go to counseling and says that we both should go to counseling, if you're not willing to go to counseling, you're not willing to make that sacrifice for that partner, because it's not something you want to do.
Right.
But if counseling is what this person wants to do, way you show that
for the betterment of the relationship. Yeah.
Right. That's why it's something you should do. When somebody decides not to do that, it tells you a lot about that person, and you need to believe them in what they're telling you.
Absolutely. So let's get into it with how you all met. And this is twist off of how you all met. You know, why do you told me that your father hooked y'all up to a certain degree, passed you to slid you the number. How did you believe your father thought she was a good fit for you? So because he gave you the number for a reason, right? And he probably in his head had some things that he was thinking of, even though he may have thought that was being your wife, but he knew something that you didn't know at that time. So why do you feel like he did that? What were some things that she may have said to you later on and like, hey, I knew she probably was a good fit for you, son?
So it initiated with my aunt. My aunt was friends with her mother, and then my aunt I got my wife's number from my mother. But to my father did say that he both my parents co-signed on the fact that they thought that she would be a good fit, at least for somebody to date outright, because they knew where she came from. They knew where she came from. They knew who her parents were, which can say a lot about a person. Like, because she was raised very similar to how I was. As I said, we lived probably about 1.5 miles from each other, but didn't meet until we lived in Atlanta. So like we grew up in very similar areas, grew up in a very similar way, very similar family makeup.
Right.
And then she knew, and then of course with my aunt, she knew that my wife was a God-fearing person. And those things coupled, my parents were both like, well, give it a solid shot. They knew I was in Atlanta, and I was in Atlanta. So
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I needed to meet somebody and date somebody a little bit more substance. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely solid. And it all worked out. So, God works in mysterious ways, definitely. So, let's take a little step back. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, because we always talk about, like, I try to build up relationships and build up, like, especially how women have influenced men, or the men in their lives, and how those relationships are really healthy. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So, when you think about, the information was translated into what it ended up being, right? So what does that look like now, while y'all were dating, and you think back on it, with, how does she keep your attention while dating? What are some things that you feel like your wife did to hold your attention in Atlanta?
right.
And to know that, like, she was really somebody that was different, besides the stuff you actually knew already. But what were some things that held your attention when you're a young man, you're living in Atlanta, it's whatever the ratio is, even though you knew she was a good girl, like, what was it that really tuned in for you to say, yeah, this is different?
So for me, it was, of course, she was pretty, and of
Right.
course, it kept my attention. And
Yeah.
where you are, you got to be attracted to the person that's in front
Yeah.
of you. Like that's a given. But what was something that drew me into her is that I felt like she was as good a person as she was attractive. And I felt like, because she was a very selfless person.
Selfless. Okay.
The selfless person, but also, early on, she required me to do certain things. And I didn't know that she was doing that, but I had to earn my way into her circle of trust. It wasn't something where it was just, I'm here, so I should be able to do as I please, get all of you, all of this. Like, she required me to earn certain things from her and earn my way into her circle of trust, where I would get more of her. And she was in between those things, and her also she was also very influential in the way she went about her business. Like, she hustles, and she did not grow up poor. She came from money, but
Right.
everything I've known about her, she's always worked, and she always worked hard. Like, I think when we first started dating, she had 2 different jobs, and she didn't need 2 different jobs.
Right.
But these are the things she needed to do to maintain her lifestyle, while also living here and doing the things she wanted. Because for me, I was working a lot too, but she made time to come to my games to watch me coach. And that ended up being, because we both were working very hard. So, like, it could have been like she didn't want to come, but she would come to my games and watch me coach when I was coaching basketball. For me, she was at work. It wasn't like, oh, I'm at work, but she was a bartender. She was like, come up to the restaurant and you can hang out, and nobody's around. I rap. And so that's what I did. So, like, she put in equal amount of time to see me as I put in to see her. It didn't feel like it was one-sided. And then,
did you feel at that time when you were dating other people, because I'm sure you were dating other people too, or at least, trying to figure out who you wanted to date?
Yeah.
Were those the things that, like, completely stood out to you, that was like, wow, these stand out more because I'm not seeing this from other women?
I'm still here. Say the last part again. You broke up again.
I was just saying, like, with the, compared to the other woman you were dating at the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you still were entertaining something. You may not have been dating them seriously, but entertaining people. What were the things that what I have is, she was a very selfless person. She had a, really good work ethic in her profession, like, but at the same time, with that work ethic, you felt and you saw, not just feeling it, but you saw the work she put in and the time to make time for you, because, in the culture that we live now, it's very, woman heavy now. Women are, more inspirational in their jobs, and they're doing all these other things. That's great.
Right.
However, like, she still made time for you in working a lot. You felt that she was there. You felt like she was putting in the work. were there any other things that like made her stand out that much more than the other woman you were probably dating at the time?
So for me, it was where kind of how I knew I wanted to move into something more serious is that I
Right.
was able to get everything I wanted in one person. I wasn't
Mm.
dating one person because they looked good, one person because
Right.
of the other physical aspects,
Right.
another person because they had the same career aspirations as I did. Like I had all those things in one person. Whereas I know sometimes we can date and we date different people to fill certain gaps if we
Right.
date them at one time. But I was there, I had, and then when I saw that I had that in one person, I wanted to explore to see exactly how far that could go.
Right.
Is this something that I could do that I wanted to do long term? Is this something where she wants to keep me around long term and see where it could grow?
Right. Okay. So moving from past the dating stage into the marriage stage, at what point in time, what was it, that did it for you to say, yes, you knew she was the one that was different. However, while dating her, um, what were some of the things that she did that translated into like, this could be my wife? Not a
So
girlfriend. Like this is it right here. Forget what my parents said. I know she's a good person. I know she comes from good lineage, like in a legacy. Like so, but what was it about for her, for you, that said this is a different type of situation? So
I would say it could be superficial, but like I know one day I was at work. I was at work or coaching or something, and I left. And she happened to still be at my place because I think she hadn't left to go to work as yet. But she had when I got home, my entire closet was organized by type of shirt and pants and color coordinated, and that was something that she took upon herself to do. And when I was like, what made you do that? She's like, and she told me, she's like, when your house is in order, the rest of your life falls in place. And I said,
wow,
damn. I said,
wow,
"All
wow,
right." So from there,
wow.
like it was just little things like that was
That
like
was the same type of things that she was doing that you
right,
saw that was different. Like that
right,
was the big thing. That was the eye opener. But there were definitely other things within those things that did it for you.
correct. Like yeah, because everything. So she would always do certain things that would
Give me another one. I really want other people to know. Like I mean, that was
like,
huge. I understand. I feel what you're saying completely.
yeah.
So, is there anything else that
Because
was
it
like,
sounds like something simple and
yeah, 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 yeah.
like
But it was a big deal.
yeah, definitely. Even with what's something else that happened? There was a few. And give me a second. I'll try to give a good
No, I
one.
mean, I can even talk about something that I feel you on that. I mean, it's been things that, I mean, people have, clean it. I think when I was younger, I think it happened to me when I was about in my mid-20s, and this may sound really, it's not, you said it's superficial, but it was just the intangible things. It was something
Right,
that I didn't think of, but I was like, wow, I think it was more of something you couldn't buy.
right,
And I call it priceless. Things like that are priceless that you look for in people, and you're like, people don't do that anymore. Or
correct,
people that you're dating that are that you're attracted to aren't that. Or I think one of the things is people are waiting. Maybe she wasn't waiting for you to do it. She was doing it because she wanted to make sure that you were good.
right,
And I think it was out. It was like you. That was one of the things you talked about, being selfless. She wanted to make sure that this is going to help him be a better person if I can take this one thing away from him and I can
correct.
help him be a better person.
And that's what
You
that and
know,
that's what I was. And
and,
I got
and, and
another.
I've had that before too. I've had I was younger, but I was not ready for it. I had a young lady who and literally it may sound really bad, I'm gonna say this, but she was cleaning my bathroom, but she happened to be cleaning my bathroom like on her knees, like scrubbing down on the floor.
Yeah,
And I didn't look at it as like being a maid or anything like that. But I've since then got on my hands and knees to clean my floor before if I can't get it with a mop.
right,
But I think when she did, and I have a very small apartment at the time. But it was just the fact that she was doing it and she messed up like her her dress, because she had like a long like house dress on,
Yeah.
and got bleach all over it. But when I looked at her, it made me go into a place of appreciation that I had never been. And I think that's very hard to find when people aren't going to do that for you. And I'm like,
Correct.
you know, for me, you know, that makes me want to do whatever it takes to hold on to that person, or even like try to make sure that person feels appreciated, because you can't find that right there. Or the thing you said about the closet, you can't find people like that anymore.
No, you can't.
People need you to pay for it, and you feel like you're less than. I'm like, I think if you're somebody that's worth it, you'll do whatever it takes.
That's it. And I think about, and I do have another example.
Right.
The one thing that I did appreciate from her early on is that she held me accountable. Like, and I wasn't, for me, I'm not somebody who was opposed to accountability. Like I played sports in high school. Like like for me, even professionally, like if you're gonna dance around the topic, I'm a kind of bless you up. But if you're gonna give me direct feedback, I can take direct feedback.
Right.
So I remember I had just stopped coaching. I was still teaching. I was in the classroom, but I just stopped coaching. So I had my summer. It was the first summer I had off since like God knows when. Because ever since high school, I was either working and playing a sport. And even in college, I was working and doing summer school. But I think at this point, I had to be maybe 25. And she had stopped by my apartment on her way home. And I was on my couch. It was like mid-June, end of June, like school is out. And she looked at me like I had I don't know what I just did. But she looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, what you look at me crazy for? She's like, what you gonna do this summer? I said, I'm getting paid. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you don't make enough to just be sitting here not doing nothing. And like I could have taken it a certain way, but like she was right. Like neither one of us is in a position where we could just sit still. But I also saw in her that she was working 2 jobs and she didn't really need to. So I think ever since that point, there's never been a time where if I've got spare time, I'm trying to find a way to go do something and go get it. Like I'm not I'm still, but part of that, and I'll be transparent. Part of that is her holding me accountable, like for that, and like part and I know we've joked about it since then. But she's like, if I'm gonna marry you, I can't have you be lazy and being complacent with like for where you are. Like I don't care if you're making 150,000, like you what you gonna do to get to it. So that's. But I respected her holding me accountable for that and other things, and because in other relationships I would just do what I want. I could talk my way out of whatever, and like that wasn't the case with her. So I appreciate her level of accountability for me.
And even that, you know, just not really meeting her, you know, and knowing you, she knew you came from, and maybe even that was a case of her looking at you like, hey, this not you, right? You know, what we doing? What we doing over here? Like, and so you need that accountability sometime. And I know we're coming towards the end, but I wanted to really ask this question, like, you know, being a young man, being married, and continuing to like, you know, build on that relationship. What would be some things you would tell other young men who are at your stage? Because, you know, now 10 years ago, it's way different than the guys who are 27, 28 now. They playing left and right. But a guy who's really interested in getting to that place and wants to, you know, find that woman, what would be some things that you would tell him to be working on right now?
Make sure you're in a good,
you know, because again, you're different. I do know that. I recognize that. But what would be some things that you would tell the younger version of yourself?
You gotta be in a good place yourself. Like you can't, and that's like professionally and like in a mental space. Like you've got, like I know for me, I met somebody a little while ago, and I think this is something I've heard from other folks too. Like when men don't address like certain things from their past or family dynamics, things like that translates into their relationships. And then also if you're not, at least you're always growing, so you don't have to be like in your peak professional space, but you need to be working towards something. I mean, you need to be in a space where you're in a secure space for yourself, professionally and mentally, because you can't let somebody else in your space if you don't have one or both of those together or working towards having those things in place. I'd also say get to know the person. I think sometimes, for men and women, I think sometimes we can move too quick. I think sometimes we get caught up in the infatuation stage, and we get caught up in somebody's representative until we don't see them with, you don't see the person without the lineup, you don't see the person without their wig off, like you don't see like see the person who they really are when like things hit the fan. Like this is great right now, but they really could be a terrible person when things hit the fan. So like you gotta get to a point where you stop seeing that person's representative and get to know who they are. And transparent, I think a lot of times, and sex clouds that a lot. You know what I'm saying? You getting from in one aspect, but you accept this because you're liking something else. Whereas you need to get to know the person a bit more as you move forward, to either cut your losses early or to understand where you need to push your chips in and do what you need to do to make sure that can grow, that could possibly grow into something.
Thanks, man, for that. I appreciate that. And I want to add on to that, we talk about these things offline and to each other on this platform, because we wanted to make sure that, mental health for men is so important, right? And one of the things you first said was, making the time for you, knowing who you are. And you can't go into another situation if you don't know who you are. A lot of people say they know what they are. We understand what that means. We understand what it really looks like. They say it all the time, and I think it's almost thrown out there way too much, because you have to sit with yourself sometimes. You got to sit with who you are and understand, like, it's okay. However, you do need some improvements to get into a healthy situation. I've seen so many failed marriages. I've heard so many relationships that go bad because they didn't know who they were. I've even met women in relationships who say that they know who they are, but they're still trying to figure it out. And I can see it from a mile away. And I always say, being in therapy myself for a period of time, you find out who somebody really is when a conflict comes up. How they handle that conflict is so important. And so, doesn't mean that this has to be perfect, but how they handle it is so important. People shut down. You don't see those things when you're having a good time at the bowling alley. You don't see those things when you're going out dancing, everybody's smiling and giggling. But what happens when an issue comes up? And that's, to me, you tell my audience right now, that to me is what life is really about. That's, to me, is what relationships are really about, because we can sit up here and say your marriage is perfect, but I think it's just healthy. And healthy doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have bad days. You don't have times where you feel bad, or, it's hard or difficult, but it's healthy in the sense of, the person next to you has your back. The person next to you is going to have the best interest for you and the family. So you want to end on anything with that?
No, I think you hit on the head, man. I think sometimes people feel like to have a good relationship, to feel like your relationship is good, that there is no conflict. And I think that if somebody tells you that they're in a marriage or a relationship, everything's great, we don't fight, they're a liar. Like, they are a bold-faced lie, and I want them to put a Ring camera up in their living room and let us watch 24 hours to see exactly what happens. They probably don't talk to each other. Conflict, like for me, I think my marriage, I think I'm in a great marriage, but we argue, we fight, like we have disagreements, but it's how you handle it that lets you know you're in a good space. Are you always going for the low blow? Are you always trying to win? Are you always trying to, like, how are you arguing? Are you shutting down? Are you leaving, not coming back to the topic? Are you accountable? I think one thing I hear a lot about from folks, and like even in my relationship, I think sometimes that both of us work on is just making sure we're accountable for what we did, so that we can avoid it. I think a lot of times people don't want to admit that they did something wrong, or are too headstrong to want to accept that they've done something wrong. And I think that people need to be okay with the idea that it's okay to argue, it's okay to have disagreement. Let me say, it's okay to have disagreement. Like, disagreeing doesn't mean that you're not equally yoked. Like, you're not.
It's okay. It's actually healthy, because you learn other things about the person that you can evolve with.
Right.
And I think that people don't see that a lot of the times. And I'm like, how do you expect to evolve? How do you see these people who've been married for 50 years and not see them be evolving? You can only go through these different conflicts, because we're going to change over time.
Oh, for sure.
I believe women will change much more because they have to give birth and they have to have more, more on their bodies over time. But as far as like men, we evolve too. We have to adjust and adapt to that as well. And
Correct.
so I think if you don't go through those conflicts and you understand each other, and I think the one thing that you said earlier on that you saw that was different was she held you accountable. Because when you hold somebody accountable and then you probably hold her accountable as well, right, on things, it's coming from a good place. You don't have to go and like try to, and I've heard from a lot of married people, this is the most important thing is we're on the same team.
Yep.
Like we're here together. Like it's not me versus you. It's not, we're on the same team. And the only way we're going to win is we're both aligned and we're both in the same place. So,
Correct.
King, I appreciate you, man. I love these conversations. I love to pick on you and to go to you because you've been able to get in something at an earlier age that most of us have never been able to get in and stay in for a period of time. So kudos to your wife, and thank her for allowing you to be here and your kids to express how other Black men and men of color go through things, as well as how they're able to overcome things within their relationship to make it a healthy relationship. So I appreciate you for that. And again, we're going to tell the audience again, selfless, your the work ethic, and also looking towards making time for the relationship is so important for especially men to have. So those are things we're going to continue to like push towards for men to look for as they are looking for their wives.
Definitely, man. Definitely, man. I'm happy to speak about it anytime, brother.
So we'll see you back to the Brother to Brother show. We're going to have a couple series with men talking about how do we get here, and how do they find their wives. And we'll see you next time.